everyone, and welcome to another episode of Pacer Sports Live, shot on location at Mellow Mushroom in beautiful downtown Aiken, South Carolina. I'm your host, Jordan Phillips, alongside, as always, head coach Mark Miller, head coach Mark Vanderslice, and head coach Kenny Thomas. Guys, how are we doing tonight?
Good.
Great. Well, thank you.
Everybody doing good? Everybody feeling good after the long Christmas hiatus?
Yeah.
Well, of the show at least,
glad to be
obviously.
back.
Not
Yeah,
for you
Glad
guys.
to be
Christmas
back.
is a little bit longer for us.
Yeah.
Just a little bit longer.
All right, so we've got a packed show for you guys tonight. It's going to be a fun episode. We've got a special guest that we're going to introduce a little bit later on. It's going to be a fun episode. So we'd like to start off by saying that we're doing some trivia here on location at Mellow Mushroom tonight. So for future reference for next episode, you should be sure to come on out and check it out. You could participate, maybe win yourself a prize. So tonight's question is, name 2 of the 4 volleyball players from the USC Aiken team that were all conference this year. So if you were here at Mellow Mushroom, you would get one of these fancy slips right here. You fill it out, turn it in, and you might win yourself some USC Aiken swag. It's not a bad deal, you know. You don't get that kind of opportunity every day, only here at Pacer Sports Live. So we're going to go ahead and lead on into some team updates. We're going to talk to the coaches, see how the teams are doing after the hiatus of the show, get some updates, and then we'll go from there. So, Coach, let's start with you, Coach Mark Miller. Yeah, it was a little bit of a tough stretch there for you guys, but you did finish it off with a big win against Lander there on Saturday. So why don't you just give us a little bit of an update on the team, tell us how things were.
Well, we went through a little tough stretch there, still fighting some injuries and getting some people healthy and trying to get back to playing hard and competing the way we need to. Saturday's win was huge, beating a really good Lander team that's well coached and well prepared on the road. I think they were 25th in the country coming into that game. So, really proud of my team coming together. We played really, really hard. We competed to the end. We didn't take a play off. And we've had some trouble being able to compete for 40 minutes and playing hard. And I felt like the last 2 nights that we've played that we've done a better job of competing hard and playing hard. And then Saturday we were able to do it for 40 minutes against a really good team. We were able to defend, we rebounded the ball better, and we were able to score. And we've had trouble scoring at times this year and taking care of the ball, and we did that. So I feel like we're making some progress. It's been a struggle early, been a struggle putting some things together, but hopefully, after the Lander game, we get some confidence and feel good about ourselves and, get ready for our big game on Wednesday, with Augusta. So, we just got to continue to improve, and we got to be able to, we've been using the word competitively consistent, and that's what we've been trying to do, and not take a play off on either end, offensively or defensively, and hopefully we've turned a corner with that, and that we're ready to step up and finish the year strong.
Okay. And so did you really see this Lander game as something of a turning point for the rest of the season? Like, this is the kind of performance your team can put up on a nightly basis?
As I said to him a couple weeks ago, we've played and we can play with anybody, but there's a certain kind of thing how you have to play that way. And it doesn't matter what you do if you don't play hard. If you don't play hard and compete, you're not going to win. It doesn't matter what sport you're in, how good you are, how bad you are. If you compete and play hard, you got an opportunity. And that's what I've been selling to our team and our players. And, I think they understand that, but there's a time where you can't take plays off, and you got to play hard and you got to compete. So, I'm hoping this is one of those things that we've turned the corner with the fact that we can play hard and compete. And if we do that, we got a chance to be in every single game. And that's really all you can ask for. We're still young. We're still beat up. We got a lot of stuff. But if you play hard and compete for 40 minutes, you got a chance. And, if we do that, I'll be proud of them the rest of the way, because that's how we have to play here.
Absolutely. And so, as you mentioned, you do have the big game Wednesday night against Augusta. What are your expectations for that game? How do you want to coach your team in order to get the victory there?
Well, it's always a big game down here with that. I learned that last year with the 2 games we played last year with them. And, it'll be a great game on Wednesday. It'll be a great atmosphere. Both teams will come in ready to play, playing hard and getting after it. And, I think it's one of those things that comes down to, the teams that play the hardest and make the fewest mistakes have the opportunity to win the game. And, for us, it doesn't change if we play hard, guard, and rebound, and don't turn it over, we got a chance. So, we'll be ready, and it'll be a great game and a great atmosphere.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
So we'll go ahead and move on to men's basketball with Coach Mark Vanderslice. Give us an update on the team. You guys got some big wins since we last spoke. Just give us a little bit of a rundown. Give us an update on the team and on the season.
Well, we're 7-4 right now, currently in the conference, 10-5 overall, and probably in one of the most bizarre stretches in my coaching tenure. We're undefeated on the road, and we're 1-4 at home, which is very odd. I've always said if you win all your games at home and half your games on the road, you're going to be in contention for the conference title. Well, I never really thought about flipping that, and that's kind of been the case this year. So for us, we've been trying to figure out the pattern. Where is it? Because there's no coincidence on playing with a certain fire and energy and level of intensity on the road, but not quite to the level at home that we have run on the road. And right now we're searching for that pattern. We've talked about distractions and being locked in and making sure that all the things that come with playing at home aren't something that deter us from our focus. And that's kind of been our bugaboo, I think, over the course of the last couple of conference games. Is when we're playing at home, we've got to make sure that we look at the game as it's just the 12 guys on the team and the coaching staff. That's it. Don't look in the stands. Don't worry about the other team. Play and control what you can control. And so, I think that we got the game on Wednesday against Augusta, and it's a home game, so we're going to be able to test it.
And again, speaking about that Augusta game, give us just a little bit of your thoughts on the game and how you want to approach the game in order to get a big win against the crosstown rival.
Well, the coaching staff does a really good job of playing to their strengths at Augusta. This year, they lost their Peach Belt conference all-time leading scorer, Keyshawn Sherrill. Ran the point, but he was the consummate leader. So this year they're playing without him, but they're playing with more size. So they're playing physical. They're playing in the gaps. They're going to try to take away the drive and kind of give up the shot. And that's kind of what they do. It's no shock or surprise if you watch a couple of films on what their strategy and game plan is. So for us, we just have to be prepared for their length, their size, their physicality. And, if we do what we do, I think that we're going to put ourselves in a good position. We don't necessarily need to be prepared for what they're going to bring, but not necessarily worry about what they bring. And just do what we do and keep fighting. And I think we'll be fine.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
And so we'll go ahead and finish up the team updates with baseball. Coach, you guys are getting really, really close to that opening day. Give us an update on the team. How's the team looking in practice right now?
Well, we started practice on January 10th. So we've had a few days now. We've practiced really well. The guys came back in pretty good shape, and I think we've had really good practice. I just left there a few minutes ago. We had a good practice tonight, and I've been very pleased. Yesterday we inter-squad. We ran about 10 guys out there that are pretty good yesterday on the mound. It's kind of weird on January 21st. You got 5 or 6 scouts in the stands to see your pitching, but which they're not quite ready yet. But, our pitching has a chance to carry us a long way. I mean, we're a good offensive team, and we're a good defensive team, but the pitching has a chance to carry us a long way. So we hope that happens. We've had great practices. Believe it or not, we play a week from Friday, February 2nd. Baseball season is here. That's hard to believe. Seems like just yesterday it was Christmas, but it's been good. I think as I said earlier, this fall I enjoyed this team, practicing with this team probably more than any I've ever had, and so far that's continued on. Now we hadn't played any games yet. We hadn't had anybody have to sit on the bench yet and not start. So we got to go through that phase, but. So far, it's a very good team attitude. Hard workers. We're deep in some spots we're not. So we can't afford some injuries in some spots that could really hurt us. But so far, it's been really good. So I'm excited. The guys are ready. February, we're at home every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, every weekend in February. The first 3 weekends are teams that were in the NCAA tournament last year. And then we have Francis Marion the last weekend at home. So obviously we need to be ready to play in February. It's a big, big month for us.
That's good scheduling, isn't it?
Great scheduling.
That's what I thought.
Great
I thought that was
scheduling.
great
2 years
scheduling.
ago, I probably didn't realize that, but when I scheduled that. But it's going to be a tough February. Very, very tough. And I told the guys last night, we can't just, creep in and get our feet wet in the creek. We're right in the middle of the creek when it starts, so we better be ready.
And so the other night, we actually interviewed one of your players, Niall Goings, for the Athletics podcast, Inside Pacer Nation. And one of the things that he told us was that the team was going to rely a lot less on the long ball this season, that they were going to try and manufacture more runs. Is that something you've really been focusing on?
We've really been working on that a lot. We do have a lot of power. We've got 4 or 5 guys in there that with really legit power. But we can't live off of that. You can't sit there and think you're going to hit a 6-run homer to win the game. You can't rely on that. So we have tried to stress that we need to be complete and balanced offensively, and we've worked really hard on it this spring. So hopefully we'll do better, not have to rely on it so much, but don't be surprised if we don't hit a few over that wall too, because we've got some guys with Pereira and Niall Goins and Weeks and Durden. I mean, them guys have legit power. So you're going to see hopefully a more balanced offense than we had last year.
All right, and just one last thing. Update us on the injuries that you had some over the offseason.
Well,
Give us a little bit of an update on this.
Jose Bonilla's back and practicing full speed, and you can tell he missed the fall. I mean, our sport's a game of repetition, so he missed the whole fall, and that hurt him a little bit. But he's working extremely hard. Ray Fuse is back throwing. He'll be a starter next weekend for us. Didn't pitch in the fall, but he's back throwing. Calvo's still not back. I'm not sure what his status is yet, but he's not back yet. But it's good to see old Ray Fuse back out there, and it's really good to see old Jose back in center field. And I told him last night, I said, don't worry about it, you'll catch up. Just keep running them balls down in center field till you catch up offensively.
All right. Thank you, Coach. And so we've got a few team updates in. We're going to take a brief break, and we'll be right back with an interview with the brand-new Athletics Director, Jim Herlihy. We'll be right back.
University of South Carolina Aiken women's basketball standout Kyrie Chandler has been named the Hudson Etheridge Companies and Auto Owners Insurance USC Aiken Athletic Department Student Athlete of the Week. Chandler, a junior from Powder Springs, Georgia, led the Pacers to a 1-1 week. For the week, Chandler averaged 14.5 points and drained 45% of her shots from the field. She hit 9 of 20 field goal attempts, including 7 of 12 from behind the three-point line. Chandler also added 3 steals and 2 assists. She scored 13 points against UNC Pembroke. In the win at Lander, Chandler poured in 16 points, hitting 5 field goals, including 4 from downtown. The Hudson Etheridge Companies and Auto Owners Insurance USC Aiken Athletic Department Student Athlete of the Week honors one student athlete each week from an in-season sport for their hard work and effort.
Welcome back, everyone, to Inside Pacer Sports Live. Excuse me. Mentioned that previously, so that was in my head. But either way, we're actually going to do a special interview now with the new athletic director, Jim Herlihy. Mr. Herlihy, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
I called you Mr. Herlihy. You told me to call you Jim, so I'm going to go with that
Sorry,
now.
threw me off right from the beginning.
I'm telling you, throwing the curveballs. So just to start the interview off, tell us a little bit about your journey, how you ended up at USC Aiken.
Well, this is my 30th year working in athletic administration. I've been fortunate in my career that I've worked in all 3 levels of the NCAA, 1, 2, and 3. I worked in minor league sports and major league sports, and I think it was sort of an evolution where I found where I thought I fit the best. And I grew up in a small town. I went to a small college, and I felt like, for me, being at the level of at the Division II level was the perfect fit for me, where our student athletes can have a really great balance of academics and a high level of competition. And it's just an environment that I was comfortable with. I was familiar with USC Aiken from my time at the University of Montevallo, a former Peach Belt Conference member. I was the athletic director there for 7 years before I went on to try some other things. And when this opportunity opened, I knew this community, I knew the campus, I knew the leadership that was at USC Aiken. I knew the reputation of the athletic program, made a very attractive position to apply for, and fortunate that I'm able to sit in this role.
Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit how your first year in the position is going? How are things here in Aiken for you?
I think we're making some progress. You can measure success in a lot of different ways. You can measure it in wins, you can measure it in grades, you can measure it in fundraising dollars, those kind of things. But there are different perspectives on how you might measure that progress in my first year. For me, I'm just looking to see how are we serving our student athletes, how are we making their lives better, how are we positioning our coaches for success. So we've made some traction in some of the metric areas, but in some of the other areas it's been important for me to try to reach out and communicate with student athletes and communicate with the coaches on a regular basis. I'm trying to take in really as many data points as possible so that I can see what it is that we need to improve our department and where our opportunities might be moving forward. So I saw an article recently about if you want to have long-term success in athletics, you have to be kind of obsessed with this kind of role, or if you're a head coach or you're an athletic administrator, to really be successful in athletics. And I think I've become obsessed with the process, and I'm just trying to learn as much about the USC Aiken process and how we can kind of make things better for our student athletes.
All right. So usually in this kind of position, people have a passion project, something that they really want to get done in a particular situation. Do you have any passion projects, any real things that you want to accomplish while you're here?
Well, I have a list of projects that I'd be really passionate about doing, but I think the focus has maybe been a little bit different than a particular project at this point. As mentioned, I've been trying to gather as much information as possible. I have a really simple goal, and I want to raise the national profile of USC Aiken through our athletic teams, our coaches, and our student athletes. And to raise that profile would to really sort of expand the reach and reputation of the USC Aiken brand. So we're in a process right now trying to figure out what are the strategies, what are the tactics, the things that we might want to do that's going to raise that profile. So the phrase that I sometimes use is world domination. I really want us to be excellent in everything that we do. I want the best sports medicine staff. I want the best athletic communication staff. I want every one of our student athletes to have a path to graduation, an opportunity to compete for championships, and to really be prepared to go pro in something other than chosen sport when they finish their experience at USC Aiken. So I want to make that experience the best that we can make. So while it's really not a project, it's really trying to figure out how can we position ourselves to get better each day. Are we challenging the process? Are we holding each other accountable? Are we advocating for the things that we think are really important? And how does that translate into helping the young people that we're working with? So I'm obsessed and driven. That's my passion, is to try to position this to be the best athletic department that we can make it.
And that's going to be a very encouraging thing for the Pacer fans to hear, that you are so passionate and driven to make this program better in every facet of it.
Well, and we've got to be able to figure out how we invest for success. So one of the things that keeps me up at night is I really focus heavily on a positive student-athlete experience, and I've never met a student-athlete who told me, it's okay if my team doesn't win, I'm having a positive experience. Those don't go hand in hand. So winning's got to be part of that positive experience. But where I lose sleep is how do we take that focus on the student-athlete experience and maybe balance it with the resources we have available, whether those are fiscal resources, what kind of budgets do they have to work with, what kind of recruiting budgets, what kind of scholarship budgets, those kind of things. Where are we from a physical resource standpoint? Do we have facilities that allow our coaches to be able to compete with our peers and our aspirants if we want to be nationally prominent in Division II? And then where are we with human resources? Do we have the ability to go out and get talented coaches and get talented administrators and allow them to grow professionally and allow them to build a long-term program, a long-term sustained of success at USC Aiken. So that balance between focusing on the experience and where we are with resources and how can we tell our story so that people can help us invest for success is really a key thing for us.
Yes, sir. And so at this point, I'd like to open it up, and any of the coaches that have a question for Jim, feel free to ask anything you guys might have on your minds.
That could be really dangerous.
Well, I personally, and I'm sure probably with all of us, we probably all can relate to the fact that we're pretty much all obsessed with our certain sports and what we do. And, you know, I've been guilty of not being exactly well-rounded myself. But as far as juggling priorities, is there, you know, I mean, with the family life and the athletic life, is there any ideas, thoughts on what you do to juggle those priorities between family, home, and, and athletics?
That's really difficult, and I think maybe it's one of the lessons that I learned too late in my career that I wish I would have learned a lot sooner. And I try to say this a lot. We have some really talented young coaches and administrators in our department. You've got to find that balance. And balance isn't always just the time at work or the time at home. It's figuring out where you can have quality at both. But I think one of the things I wish I would have done a better job as a young professional, and when I was younger, my kids were younger, I was still working in Major League Baseball, but I wish I could have made a commitment to make it home for dinner every night. That even if I went back to the office or went back to the ballpark or wherever it is, I think that's really important, that you have, that you are able to have that time and spend the time with your family or other interests. And the other thing I think a lot of young professionals struggle with is being able to take a break, to be able to recharge your batteries and just get away and step away. Because everybody's really driven in this business, a lot of type A personalities. So probably those two things I think would be.
Well, I'm going to piggyback off that a little bit. How do you take that break? Like, I know for me, if I'm away and we all try to think we're taking breaks and we end up not. I guess for me, kind of piggyback, kind of.
Yeah, and it's hard because I said I'm somebody that's been obsessed with process in my career in the various places that I've been able to work. But I think you've got to kind of build that in. And sometimes you can kind of build that in with some family time. And typically when I've gone on family trips, I'll try to find a ballpark or a campus or something nearby that I might go and make a quick visit and get some ideas of what facilities look like, or go say hi to the folks that are working there and make that kind of connection. But so for me, it's been always difficult to kind of turn it off. But I think you just got to kind of force yourself to do that on a regular basis and try to build it into your schedule. You know, we're obsessed in this business with planning. We're planning out our practice for today, and we're planning out what we're going to do for the next week, and we're planning our recruiting calendars, and we're planning out how we're going to do our budget work. Sometimes we have to plan, hey, I'm going to take a 3-day break here and just kind of recharge. But right. I would say, too, though, we're talking about a little bit about being obsessed, and I know I've had this conversation with a couple of the coaches. I'd much rather be Bill Belichick and have an opportunity to be obsessed and build an organization than the person that comes through and has to follow what he's doing. But even those most successful guys, they find a balance somewhere. I know with Nick Saban at Alabama, it's a 24-hour break that he takes before he starts on the next deal, but you got to get a break. So.
Well, how about asking these other two
Before you
coaches?
ask, you got a budget meeting next week.
Yeah.
All right. Don't.
How about asking these other two coaches right here last month who predicted the national champion in football? I just wondered if they would give you an answer
wasn't
here.
the fan? Didn't we have a really good fan out here that said who was going to win it? I think it was a fan.
I believe there was one person on this panel here that said
Mark,
roll
congratulations.
Tide.
Good job.
Thank you.
Mark.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Come on
Clemson,
now.
all the way. Clemson.
That's me right there. That's me right there.
But I like to say, since you've been here, I know you've done a lot. I mean, it's your schedule has been tough, I'm sure, since you've been here. And I just wonder what you have enjoyed the most about USC. Heck, I've been here 18 and a half years. And you and I have talked about this a lot in the last 4 months. And what has kept me here all these years. So, and I've tried to give you the best answers I could, but sometimes I don't know the answer why. But what's the thing you've enjoyed the most since you've been here?
I think the thing that gives me the most juice and gets me excited to come to work every day is getting to meet some of the student athletes and see what they're fired up about, what they're passionate about. I really enjoy hearing, their stories and what they're trying to do, and then getting to meet so many different coaches that might have a different perspective that I hadn't seen before, or a different way that they approach their work, or a twist on something that we do in the business. And I feel like, oh, that's a great idea. That would help make, what I'm doing, it makes it a little bit easier. But I talked about those data points before, as I've had a chance to sit down with all three of you, and I really like and relish the one-on-one time that I have with coaches to hear what's the plan for the individual sport and how you guys have set your roadmap for where you want to go. And if I can help a little bit along the way, that's what I get fired up about doing every day.
One thing that I got to say that I've enjoyed about since you've been here is following you on Twitter.
Oh, jeez.
You come up with some pretty good things on Twitter. I'm talking about not really funny things, sometimes funny, but some good reads, some things that when you go on there and you've retweeted something, a lot of times you go and read that, and it's pretty interesting to read. I don't know where you find all those things, but I've enjoyed following you on Twitter.
I would like to think I have some funny things too, but my family says no, so I stay away from the funny.
Yeah, I do
Twitter. Yeah.
Man, I'm up in the world here.
Yeah.
Twitter.
All right.
I'm actually going to go
You
follow
have two
you
young
right
kids.
now.
That's why you're not on Twitter.
All right.
You have two young ones. That's why you don't have enough time.
Just
for Twitter.
asking.
Yeah, Twitter. You need to get in with the real world.
That's what you say.
Yeah, you're
the real
behind. You're behind us older gentlemen, as we've been like to be told.
Yes.
Just asking.
So, may I for a second? I have a question for the coaches, if that's possible. So you talked about Twitter. I had an opportunity to see something recently with a couple of NBA stars that I've been kind of fascinated with a little bit, and they were talking about conspiracy theories. And that seems to be something that's kind of prevalent in society right now. We see it a lot in our politics. And are there conspiracy theories? But there was one NBA star, Kyrie Irving, that was talking about his thought was, could the Earth really be flat?
What was that?
Could the Earth be flat?
Oh, geez.
Or is it not round?
What
Now,
kind of nut is that?
I don't know about you. I'm sure Coach Thomas was great in high school physics. I wasn't great, but I think science is to debunk that. But the other one was J.J. Redick talking about whether or not dinosaurs were real. And the basic gist of that was there was a British doctor in the 1850s who coined the term dinosaur, and then like 10 or 15 years later, they started finding fossils everywhere. So if there was man or some form of man walking around since 10,000 BC, and they didn't discover dinosaurs to 1850, is there really dinosaurs? So those are a couple conspiracy theories I've been thinking about. Do you guys have a conspiracy theory like that?
Well, what about the secret hallway for Chris Paul going to Blake Griffin? Is that
I don't think it's secret. I think
okay. That was conspiracy theory there for a minute.
What was?
But you know what? What's that?
What was it?
Remember when Chris Paul went to the locker room with the teammates, and they said, somebody tweeted out something and said there was a secret hallway in the back they were about to fight.
And he was the only one who knew how to get in there.
I don't know if he was the only one, but I know he was one of the ones that led the charge.
I've been a little more into the con world than the conspiracy.
Cons.
Yeah. Have you ever watched the
It's
movie?
good for your reputation.
Have you ever watched the movie The Sting? I was infatuated. That's an old movie. These clowns over here ain't never seen it. You ain't never seen it, have you?
I haven't. I didn't.
The
hear
Sting. You should watch.
Oh, I've
that.
heard of Sting. Yeah. Is that?
The
Wait a
Sting.
minute.
Robert Redford.
Yeah.
Now the conspiracy. That's real con there. That's real con. That was my favorite movie growing up. The Sting. You remember this?
Well,
remember this?
Yeah, that was the.
That's a steal
That's
sign.
a sign we fixed to
Steal
con
sign.
somebody.
Steal second.
That's the indicator.
The sad thing
Yeah,
is,
that's the indicator. That's right.
the sad thing is you actually can get people to believe in that. If you are a celebrity, an athlete, you can find a certain entourage of people that will believe any conspiracy.
My question
any
is,
conspiracy.
unless I'm missing something, nobody's fallen off the earth, have they? That we know of? No one's
I haven't
fallen off
seen
the earth.
anybody.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody either. I think it's still around.
I think it's still right.
I've never gone anywhere, so I don't know.
Well, you were in Maine. So the Maine is, that's towards the edge. And you didn't fall off, so you were okay.
There was an eastern province of Canada connected, so we didn't totally fall off.
True.
Well, we've gotten a little off the rails here.
Yeah, I'd say
That's
we
us.
did.
That's us. We like that. We like that.
Well, that was good.
So we're going to switch gears a little bit and go into our Coach's Stories segment, and we've already covered Coach Mark Miller and Coach Mark Vanderslice. So that only leaves the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Kenny Thomas. So we're going to give you the floor. Tell us your story in coaching.
Yeah,
We're all eager to hear the stories.
Look, they told me, hey, wait, before you get started.
What time's this show get over?
Before you get started, they told me to tell you only got 3 minutes. They don't know if you
3
got enough
minutes.
time. I'm just checking.
Well, now, you're kind of wanting to know how I got involved into where I am today.
How you got involved in
I have no earthly idea. But I will tell you this. Going back to high school, I was a 3-sport athlete. I played football, basketball, and baseball. My senior year, I was a very heavily recruited football player, okay? I told everybody that recruited me in football that I wanted to play baseball, and I would not come to your school to play football unless I could play baseball, because baseball was my favorite sport. So realistically, I had narrowed it down to either Tennessee or Alabama. I was going to go to one of those schools, and both coaches, Coach Dickey and Coach Paul Bear Bryant, were both telling me that I could play baseball if I came there. Now, do you really think Bear Bryant was going to let me play baseball? Probably not, but that's what he said. So my life changed the 8th game of my senior year. We were playing in Huntsville, Alabama, and I was running a kickoff back, and I can still see it today. There was a guy on the ground, a guy coming at me here, and a guy coming at me here. I jumped over and hurdled the guy on the ground. Guy hit me right on my left knee. So it ended my football career. I did not know at the time, we were in Huntsville, Alabama, Bear Bryant was in the press box. And back then the recruiters could sit with your parents. The Tennessee recruiter was with my parents in the stand. And I tore my knee up pretty good. I didn't want to get it fixed. If you see me limping now, it's because I wanted to play baseball that spring. I came back, tried to play basketball, lasted 30 seconds. Halfway through the season, I thought I was ready. I went in the game, went down in 30 seconds, and that was the end of my basketball career. But I got my knee built back up enough to be able to play baseball. So I went to a junior college. Then I went to a school in downtown Nashville, Trevecca University, D2 school. Had a great baseball career there. Loved the sport. Started coaching as a 20-year-old. I was coaching a summer team. I was a player coach. Loved baseball. Coaching was just my passion. I look back all the time and really truthfully say that blessings come in different ways. If I hadn't hurt my knee, if I hadn't got hit that night, I probably would have went to the University of Tennessee because I lived in Nashville and everybody was pushing me to go there. So I probably would have went to the University of Tennessee as a strong safety, played football. I don't know whether I'd have got to play baseball. And I might not be a baseball coach today if that hadn't have happened. But I worked a few years for the St. Louis Cardinals, and I went to a junior college in Gallatin, Tennessee, volunteer state. Coached 12 years there. We had I started the program. They had been without baseball for 7 years. And I started the program back. Very lucky to get that job. I was out working for the Cardinals, and somebody told me the job was coming open. I went the next day, and they were fixing to hire another coach, and somehow I convinced them to look at me, and they hired me. And
Somehow?
Somehow. I spent 12 years there. We won 520 games. In 12 years, we had it going there. I mean, I had 48 players drafted there. We really had it going. I thought I'd never leave, and something about Aiken, South Carolina just drew me here. I came down here twice before I made up my mind that this is what I wanted to do. And I really can't answer why. It was like a magnet drawing me here. I think the challenge of rebuilding the program was really down. I showed up here in July 1 of 1999, and we had 8 players on the roster. Everybody had jumped ship and gone, and Lord, that first year of 2000, my wife said, I slept mad. She said, I never seen anybody sleep mad, but you're sleeping mad. I said, if you look what I have out there, and I don't know how we did it that year. We won 30 games and lost 26 or something, but since then we've gradually gotten better, and it's been a passion, and here I am 19 years later, still here at USC Aiken. But I do say this: blessings come in a lot of different ways. Sometimes we don't realize it. And when I hurt my knee that night, they put one of them old casts. You remember the old cast? These guys don't remember that. They put a cast from my toe up to my hip. For 6 weeks, I didn't get to move my leg, and you know, it was tough times. I thought it was the end of the world, to be honest with you. I thought it was the end of the world, but in the long scheme of things, it was a true blessing, because I doubt very seriously I would have got to play baseball in college, and that's what I like the best. So here I am, 19 years later, proud to be here. I love this place. I love Aiken, South Carolina, and I love USC Aiken. So it's been a great run for me.
Been a blessing
USC
us
Aiken
too.
loves you.
So thank you.
All right, so to switch gears a little bit more, we're going to give each of the coaches a little brief, and we'll give Jim Herlihy 90 seconds. Just update us on their personal lives. Tell us how things are doing. How are you guys? So we'll start with you, Coach Mark Miller. How are you these days?
Well, we're doing great. Our family's well. You know, for us, kind of like Coach down there, baseball and softball season for my kids are right around the corner. So, as I said to my wife, she's going to go one way, I'm going to go the other way, and midnight we'll catch up with each other. So for us, my daughter's getting healthy. She had her surgery, getting her healthy, and hopefully have her ready to go this week. And baseball and softball tryouts are next week. So, you know, things are good for us right now. You know, we continue to settle in at Aiken, learning everybody and seeing some new things. And but we're all good right now in the Miller household.
Awesome. Coach Mark Vanderslice, how are you doing?
Good. Well, you know, from December 15th, I think, was the last day of final exams, and January 16th was first day of classes. So minus a week in between there, you're with your guys throughout the course of the break, you know, with his gals and with our guys. And, you know, believe it or not, one of the most favorite parts of the job is actually going to team meals, sitting back, not saying a word, and just laughing at all the jokes from the guys. I mean, honestly, that's the relationship part of it is big, and I love that part. And I just love to sit back and laugh and with the guys. And so we just ended the break, and we're back at class, and so now a little bit more time with the family, but not so much because we got games to win. So.
All right. Coach Kenny Thomas, how are you?
Well, you know, I had a great Christmas. It was first Christmas without my mother and father. That was kind of tough, and but got through that. Me and Miss Judy went down to St. Pete for 4 days. I don't know if you saw, I got my picture made with Coach Muschamp and Coach Harbaugh down in St. Pete. That was kind of fun to meet both of those guys. Got a chance to talk to Coach Tanner down there for a little bit. So I enjoyed that 4 days. I really had a good time that 4 days. And, you know, it's for me, this is the time I really get pumped. As you can probably tell, I get fired up this time of year. So, you know, I have a great spouse, and I've said that many times. And, you know, she supports me extremely well.
She makes a mean sandwich.
She makes good
mean
sandwiches.
Sandwich, boy.
And good fried honey buns too. But it's my time. You know, our little saying on Christmas night every year is, "Hey, it's baseball season." Christmas night gets here at midnight. We look at each other and say it's baseball season. And gosh, I'm fired up, ready to go. And it's just a good time of year for me.
Excellent. Jim, how are you?
Well, we're settling in. The NCAA mandates a 7-day window during the holiday period where you can't have any athletic activities going on, and that's one of those periods when you can really have an opportunity to recharge. Although myself and maybe a couple other coaches at this table I saw around the offices during that time, still putting a little bit of time, but we got a chance to recharge and gotten settled here and a chance to visit the family, and I'm just excited that I've gotten to meet enough folks through the first 6 months of my tenure that now it's going to be fun to go see so many of our teams in action this spring, to get a chance to go out and see everybody play.
Excellent. All right, so now's the time of the show where we usually get everybody talking. We go to athletics outside of USC Aiken. So we know how the national championship picture played out. We know who was right. He's already told me.
Who was that again? Was that
it was a gentleman in the audience.
Yeah,
I can't remember his name exactly, but
sure.
so did things go as you expected? How did you feel about the result?
No, it didn't go as they expected. You remember, run the tape back. Run the tape back.
How did you guys feel about the game and the result?
Well, we knew who was going to win because of what Coach Thomas said. I mean, like
We didn't want to believe it, but we knew.
Right, we knew it. Mark and I, we kind of go against the grain a little bit, with Coach. So, it's probably how it's supposed to be. Yeah, sure.
I mean, what can I say? I called it.
Called it.
The only one I did not call was the Georgia game.
Please run the tape back.
That was it. And Alabama wasn't even in the top 4 at that point, right?
That's
Am
true.
I right?
Well, it was fun. I like college football. I like to watch college football, and it was a great playoffs. I think Nick Saban finalized, confirmed, whatever, the greatest college football coach ever. I have to say, I met with my players the next day after the national championship game, and I'm always about teaching points, learning points, teaching points. There was some real teaching points in that game. It took a lot of guts for Nick Saban to change quarterbacks at halftime. Oh, yeah. It took a lot of guts to sit a marquee player on the bench. That took a lot of guts. The kid that came, the freshman quarterback, I mean, heck, he came out of Hawaii as the #1 quarterback in the nation, and he wanted to go to Alabama. Well, most kids in that situation would never have gone to Alabama because they already had a quarterback. But he swallowed his pride and went there, and what did he do? And then the way Hurts handled it, amazing. He could have destroyed the Tide on the bench. Second half, he could have destroyed them. He could have started his.
But that goes as well with the trust that they have in their coach.
Yeah.
He makes a decision, a critical decision in a critical time, and they trust him.
I think we all will agree to this. If he hadn't changed quarterbacks, Georgia would have won.
Absolutely.
I believe that with all my heart. They'd have won. So.
Well, the interesting part of that is that in that program, how many programs throughout the country in any sport that you could make that decision,
right,
and everybody be okay with it?
Right.
We can say what we want to say about Saban,
right,
one of the greatest coaches, but more importantly is the program
right,
allows him to be able to make that decision and not have any problems with it. We all think he's really good, and I think he's great. And I just am more impressed that program, and very few of them will allow you to be able to make that decision.
Well, and you take that kid, he played so well, but how many times, I know y'all run into this like me many times, how many times you go after a guy, you go after a big-time point guard, and he looks over and, well, you already have a point guard. I'm not coming there. I got to go somewhere where I got a guarantee to play. Right. This kid wanted to go Alabama, and wow, he'll be a legend there from now on. I mean,
I'll tell you, going back to Nick Saban's decision to play that quarterback, I mean, you as a player, football, baseball, basketball, no matter what it is, you're constantly building your resume, your body of work with a coach and their decisions. And sometimes we stick with guys that have built that resume so much that even when they're down and out and not playing well, you said, hey, that's my guy, and we keep going with it. And that's a hard thing to do, to make a transition and switch gears to another player.
And I wonder if coaches might agree with this. There's really, I think for successful teams, there's 3 things that really drive the bus a little bit. One is everybody on the team's got to show up early, stay late, put in the hours no matter what your role is on the team, because he not only brought in a freshman quarterback who hadn't played, he brought in a true freshman tailback who was 4th on the depth chart. He brought in a true freshman wide receiver who was 4th in the depth chart, a true freshman lineman that all played the second half. Those are kids who had showed up early, stayed late, put in the work. So that's one. Number 2, they obviously had a great culture within that program, and they had strong leadership, and I think that was on display, that they had all of those factors. And would you agree maybe those are 3 things that really make a difference in a game like that?
No doubt.
Yeah, without a question. The culture that they have is just so strong, that nobody is bigger than the culture. Be ready when your number is called and help us be successful.
And I think Mark got it, but the other two of you missed it. The chancellor of your university has a degree from the national champion, and your athletic director has a degree from the national champion. That should have been the easiest prediction for you three guys to make. So
who got it?
One of you guys is going to get a huge raise, probably.
Who got it?
That's why I made that decision.
Who got
Come on.
Not who got it? Did you say who?
Why are you
think
denying, Coach Kenny? Why are you denying?
Right.
Come on.
Run the tape. Run the tape back. Roll the tape back.
Trust.
Roll
Coach.
Tide. Roll the tape.
We're
back.
talking about trust.
I'm going to go with Oklahoma playing Alabama in the finals.
All right. I'll, just because he's right on every other pick, I'm going to take the
Oklahoma, Alabama. Well, because these two are going to take Oklahoma, you know I'm going to take Georgia. That's right. Okay, so I'm going to take Georgia.
I'm with you on that.
I'm going to take Alabama.
Oh, Alabama.
So switching gears a little bit, we got another big football championship coming up, and it might be an easy prediction, but in the big game, you got Patriots-Eagles. Who are you guys taking?
I'm on the fence, and I'll tell you why. I'm a Tom Brady, Bill Belichick fan, but I just spent 7 years in Philadelphia before I came down here, and it's been a long time since football in Philadelphia has been fun to watch. And you know, with what they've done there and how they've kept it going after their major quarterback went down, you know, I think it's I'm happy for Philly. I know people in Philly right now are going crazy, but for me, I can't bet against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, so I'm going to take the Patriots.
Well, I'm going to get crucified. My entire family is from the Philadelphia area, and they tailgate. I mean, it's a religion for them to tailgate at the Philadelphia Eagles games. But I just bought TB12, and I'm reading that book, and I love Tom Brady. He's a winner. He's a competitor. You know, it's funny. I don't know if you guys ever saw that the documentary with Bill Belichick, Football Life. Did anybody see that? Football Life, Bill Belichick. He made an analogy that Tom Brady's scared to be Wally Pips. It wasn't Wally Pips the guy that subbed in for, or Lou Garrett came in and subbed in for him, and Wally never got his job back. I think that's it. That's it in a nutshell. You know, you got Tom Brady that's a winner. And I think he just drives his team to win championships year in and year out. So I'm going with Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Well, I haven't watched neither one of them very much. I'll admit that. I like college football, not crazy about the NFL, but I've watched it a little bit. But I'm going to go back to the movie. What was that movie where the guy came out of the bar as a bartender and become the Philadelphia Eagles?
Are you talking about Mark Wahlberg?
Yes,
And we're on a movie
that was
kick,
who was
man.
in it. What's the name
What's
of
the name of that movie?
Invincible.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's
There
from
you
the
go.
So
audience.
I'm going with the Invincible
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia
All right.
Eagles because that movie inspired me. It really did. That was a great movie, Invincible. What was the guy's name?
Mark Wahlberg.
No, it wasn't his name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was the one
Is that his
who
name?
starred in it. What's the name of the guy in Invincible? What's his name? No,
Yeah, that's
the
what I
character.
said. That's
the
what I
real life
said.
character. Yes, Vince.
Vince.
Hell.
Yeah, that was his name.
Are you talking about
The real guy. That guy was tough.
the real guy?
Yeah, I've watched that movie a bunch of times. You know, I'm one of them plain simple guys. I see a movie that I like, I might watch it 100 times. Of course, I watch Andy Griffin every night before I go to bed.
Hey, you are a movie
I've been
buff.
watching
You're on a
Andy
kick
Griffin every
right
night
now.
since I go to bed. I watch 2 episodes before I go to bed every night.
Hoosiers.
I've
Watch
seen
it.
them a million times.
That'll get you juiced up.
I love Andy Griffin.
You're up. Who's going to win it?
It's easy for me. I grew up in New England, and if I'm not rooting for the Patriots, I'll never be allowed to go home. So it's a simple.
Well, I'm not allowed to go home
Now,
now
wait a
either.
minute. The
So
question wasn't who you rooting for. The question, who's going to win?
Yeah, New England.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I have to agree with Jim, Coach Vanderslice.
Where's the
and
game
Coach
played
Miller.
at?
Sir?
Minnesota.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, it's played in
We
Minnesota.
can roll this tape back, and we can hold them accountable.
We could.
Just like
Okay.
the Roll Tide.
However, I must admit, in this situation, I'm really hoping that we do roll the tape back and see that Coach Kenny Thomas was right tonight. That's what I'm hoping for.
Oh, yeah, ain't no doubt.
I hope
Alabama wins
the
it.
Eagles win,
Revisionist history.
but it's not going to happen, is it?
Roll Tide.
Well, Now we'd like to announce the winner of our trivia competition tonight. The winner of the question, we'll read that back one more time for you guys, was name 2 of the 4 volleyball players from USC Aiken that won all conference honors this year. And the winner of that question was Brielle Jungblood, a athlete at USC Aiken actually. So next episode, which will be on February 5th, we'll be filming here at Mellow Mushroom. We'll put up a trivia question that day. You can answer it via social media, or you can come out to the filming and answer it there. Either way, you submit your answer, you get it right, and you're in the running to win some free USC Aiken gear. That's a good deal, as we mentioned earlier. It doesn't really get any better than that. But unless we have anything else from any of the coaches or Athletic Director Jim Herlihy, I'd say everything's about wrapped up for the evening. Well,
Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you guys for being here. And for all the coaches and Jim Herlihy, I'm Jordan Phillips. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.